heartbeat of our lives is a place called home. Home is where God's love and light shines, because we've learned to cast our cares on Him, not grow bitter, but give Him everything that holds on to us, knowing that He cares for us. I want you to know it's time to come home. He's been waiting. Your wife, your husband, they've been waiting. Your children, they're all waiting for you to come home. One of the things that I think most of us in the Black community are aware of is the inequalities that we face systemically in this country. Of course, not all of us are aware of that, but the majority of us are. We go to bat to expose our inequalities, and we go to bat to expose our discrimination, and that's something that obviously we have to do, because if we don't do it, then other people aren't aware of it. But in light of that, I wanted to take it to a different perspective, because I think what happens sometimes is that we get very caught up in exposing our hurts and our wounds, that we don't give ourselves a time and a chance to really heal and also to move forward. And the reason why I'm saying this is because, you know, as I call myself a pro-Black life activist, you know, one of the missions that I have is really to wake up our community to the devastation of abortion. And one of the things that I hear a lot of times when I'm reading comment sections or just talking to people in general is that the Republicans don't care about Black people, they don't care about Black babies, oh, they care about babies only up until the baby is born and then they leave the mother, which is totally untrue of those who are actually involved in the pro-life movement. That may be true of the people who are passing laws, but that's not true of the people who are in the trenches day in and day out serving, be they Black or white. But, you know, especially with this recent law that passed in Alabama, you go on Twitter and, you know, you see that I just saw so much of Black people saying, oh, well, you know, they don't care about our children until, you know, after the baby is born. But it really got me thinking about our perspective. And that's really what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to address the whole issue of our perspective, because one of the things that I think that we're going to have to do as we are removing the shackles and the chains of oppression and bondage and slavery that we've been in this nation for such a long time is we have to think about how we're thinking. We have to think about the words that we're expressing and how they come off to not only us, but how they come off to other people, and the effect and the power that they have. So we need to consider that when we say they don't care, we're actually giving them power. We're giving them the power that doesn't belong to them. You see, it's not the responsibility of white people, Republicans, whoever they are, politicians. It's not their responsibility to care about our children.
I'm scared. Please help me.
It's our responsibility. And this is one of the reasons why we see such a downfall in our community, is when we are at the one end, we're saying, hey, we're being mistreated. On the other end, we're saying, do something about it. It's just not up to anybody else to do something about it. It's kind of like having a conversation about our oppression, or having a conversation about what is happening to us collectively in this nation, or even throughout the diaspora. And then a white person will come in and they'll say, hey, you know, it's not the way you're describing it. Immediately, I think a lot of us go to defend ourselves to that person. And we say, hey, you don't understand what we're dealing with. And we go on and we try to communicate to them our own emotional wrestles, our psychological problems. But in reality, it's not a conversation that they needed to even be invited into. You see, this is all about our perspective and how our perspective needs to shift concerning who we are as a people and how we go to bat for one another. There's an old African proverb, many of you have heard it, it takes a village to raise a child. But that village is our village. We're the ones. We're not supposed to be going out and calling for people from neighboring villages and saying, hey, can you help me take care of my child? Now I know as I put up in my last video about antebellum, the period where it was pre-Civil War, where there was a lot of experimentation on black women. I know that the white community has done a lot collectively to destroy our seed. However, we fast forward into 2019 and they really don't have to forcibly do it because many of our women are actually going there to allow them to take the life from us. Now, a lot of that is psychological warfare, and this is why we have to address this, because when we change our perspective about who is supposed to care about our own, then we're going to start seeing a difference.
Is her personality. Right next to her eyes, she has pretty eyes. And her smile, that's a good one too.
He's always in tune with how things are supposed to be, and he's just adorable. I was really happy to find out I was pregnant.
Gonna be a good big sister.
Just looking back and just thinking, wow, it's already 36 weeks. It's really starting to hit me like, oh man, this baby's coming.
I'll give you an example. About a week and a half ago, my husband and I were at the gas station pumping gas, and this particular gas station is kind of known as a hotbed for druggies. And I'm watching as the homeless and as the drug addicted people, who obviously are my people, who are just walking around very clearly. They don't have a direction in life, and they're suffering. They're suffering because they don't have the drugs on them. They're going through withdrawal stages. But there was this one woman in particular, and this woman, she was it appeared to be about 7 or 8 months pregnant. When I saw her, I was just aghast. I was taken back because her whole demeanor looked like she was a zombie. The way she was walking, the way she was sitting, she had no peace. She was clearly demon possessed. And I noted as another sister bought her a sandwich and then she drove away. But being that I knew she was pregnant, it was very clear because the rest of her body was very thin and her breast and her abdomen were protruding. I said, this woman needs some water. She desperately needs water for the baby. So I got out of the car and I began to go over to her and try to talk with her. And as I tried to talk to her, it was very difficult to hear what she was saying, but I thought that I was able to go ahead and go in the store and get her some water. I came back with the water, and it was like the demons in her were very aggressive, very frustrated, and you're not going to make me drink that water. Well, I began to pray and bind those things up in the mighty name of Jesus. And when I did that, the demons got even further agitated and she began to stand up. And I wasn't afraid or anything because I knew at that point that I was dealing with a spiritual battle. She did not take the water. She picked up her sandwich, she picked up her purse, and she walked off. But that wasn't it for me. I went back to my car. My husband drove around, and when I saw her, she was crying. She was just over herself in tears, and she was standing next to 2 other drug addicted men. And I went back out and I said, hey, listen, can you guys give her this water? And they said, hey, just leave the water right there. And she was saying, she's harassing me, which it was not her saying, it was the demons. You see, when the power of God is on you, the demons tremble and they realize it. And they're trying to run away because scripture says, resist the devil and he will flee. But nevertheless, in my emotions, I was taken back. I was truly taken aback. And I began to cry myself. And I walked away feeling defeated. I walked away feeling like, I tried to serve this woman because I can't be this voice online saying, hey, listen, guys, we've got to gear up and we've got to support and we've got to love on one another. And then when I'm in the actual street, I don't do it. I try to serve this woman and I felt like an epic failure. But when I look back at that situation, I'm not going to say that God spoke to me and said, hey, you're not an epic failure, you tried. I'm not going to say that at all. What I am going to say is that I come to realize that what I did in speaking with her was not a failure at all. It was a move that is necessary for us as a community to take, especially those of us who are in the household of faith. It's very necessary for us to begin to take the moves that are risky when it comes to serving our community. We might not be received because so many of us who are oppressed have never experienced love, have never experienced the power of someone helping them, not using them and abusing them. But it doesn't matter because we have a mandate to serve one another regardless. I wish I can say that that story turned out well. I don't know what happened to that woman, but I am praying for her and her unborn child that they are served. And I just wanted to, really speak along these lines because our perspective has to change in how we deal with our community. Our perspective has to change in how we deal with the people that we love in our relationships, and with our spouse, with our children. It has to change. We have to begin to do the hard work of the internal search that says, what am I doing, or what could I be doing to bring life and to speak life into my family, into my relationships, into my children's lives. Because, when we think about even with our children that are born, there are a lot of us that say, these schools are failing our children. But many of us have come to realize that we can't depend on the school system. And if we are going to acknowledge that the school system is broken, let us also acknowledge that we need to do something about it.
Children, when they graduate, they're not thinking business-minded. And because of it, they end up in a lot of debt and trying to figure out things in life which haven't been taught in the school system. So in order to eliminate that, the best thing you could do is teach your children how to master these skills now. So that's why I homeschool.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Anita English. I have 3 children, and I started homeschooling because as a teacher, I realized that our school systems are inherently broken. Like, they are broken beyond repair and I realized that from a teacher, so I didn't want my children to be any part of that. My 15-year-old, obviously, he went through regular schooling, but I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old who will not be going through regular schooling, because when I say it's broken, it's extremely, extremely broken. So that's why I started homeschooling. That, and I realized as a Black woman, they don't have I teach middle school science, right? I teach 6th, 7th, and 8th grade science and sometimes math. And we're nowhere in the curriculum. From August until September, we are nowhere in the curriculum. And that was a problem for me, so that's why I started homeschooling.
So there's a slew of Black moms and dads who have taken the unpopular step of going in and homeschooling their own children. I'm one of those parents. My family and I have been homeschooling for almost 9 years. And I can tell you that the results that you get from your children who are homeschooled versus those who are in the public school system is a huge one. Academically, obviously, they're soaring, but they're also soaring intellectually, emotionally, they're soaring psychologically, they're soaring relationally. They're able to have empathy for their neighbors, whereas this environment that we live in today is so hostile to children being able to actually grow up and be children, between school shootings, between police brutality, between drug addictions, between even prostitution in the school system today. In a lot of our Black communities, we're seeing an uprise and just one problem after the other problem after the other problem. So make that step, make that investment, that sacrifice into your own children and say, you know what, I'm going to pull back. Even if I don't homeschool my children, I'm going to do more to be involved in what's going on in their day-to-day life. As far as the relationships that you hold, make sure that you're examining what kind of relationships that you have. Are you living with somebody who is not your spouse? If you are, then you're selling yourself short. So these are the types of things that we need to be thinking about perspective-wise and changing. Because when we change our perspective about these things, then we start to see a culture that is shifting. And I'm a firm believer that we can have all the reparations in the world, we can have all the right politicians in place, but if we don't have a strong Black family, it means nothing. You see, strong Black families are at the root of everything that we need as a community. It starts right there. And if our seed, which is our root, A strong black home is not established first in faith by putting our faith and trust in the Most High Yah by way of Yahushua HaMashiach, aka Jesus Christ. If our homes are not rooted in Him, then we're going to continually see the curses of Deuteronomy 28 just repeating cycle after cycle after cycle upon us as a community. So we've got to change the world one womb and one family at a time. And with that in mind, click on the link below to my book, Girlfriend Mentality to Wife Reality. I wrote this book to serve women who are not married and those who are married. The ones who are not married, that they may be able to see a realistic picture of what it means to be married and how to be a wise wife, how to have a different perspective about how you come into your relationships. And for those who are married, to begin to change their mind about how they're dealing in their relationships with their spouse. What I want to do is to reach out to my sisters and encourage you all to think differently about your relationships. This is why it's called Girlfriend Mentality, the mindset to wife reality. Learn to bless your home. Learn to bless your spouse. It starts here. So you can look in the description link below and you can download that off of Amazon. And I thank you so much for tuning in to Ashonda at Large, where we do discuss faith, family, and the future of our community. I want to hear from you in the comment section below. What do you think it is that we need as a people so that we can begin to see a change and a shift in our homes and in our community? Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. As well, please like, share this post, let this word get out. And if you have not already subscribed, I invite you to do so. So until next time, and as always, love yourself without hating your enemies. Till next time, Yah bless and shalom.